Hello, and welcome to Abby Tyler's Healthy Living. My name is Abby Tyler. I'm your host, a family nurse practitioner, a health and wellness blogger, and a community volunteer. In here, we discuss evidence based health information regarding mind, body, and soul with a holistic emphasis. Thanks for joining me on this journey of health and wellness. Please enjoy the show. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our show. How are you guys doing? My name is Abby. I'm your Healthy Living NP, and we are going to be talking. You see the title there, Five Holistic Tips to Manage Worrying. So let me start here as always. I'm just giving you a second here. Okay, so hi, hi, hi. Share the show, please share the show. And as always, disclaimer, I'm a provider. She's a provider also, but we're not your provider. So please do not make any changes to your regimen without checking with your own provider. Okay. So happy birthday to everybody celebrating their birthday in April also. So as I've been telling you guys, I'm a primary care provider, but I also work with other members of the team. Okay. So whether I've had people here, a doctor, cardiologist, we also did spiritual care in the past 2 weeks, and we also did podiatry medicine last week, 2 weeks ago. So today I am bringing on Vanessa. As you can see, Vanessa Woods Nelthrop. We're going to talk a little bit about her in a few seconds here. So please share the show. Please share the show. Please share the show. Okay, so let me get into here. Vanessa is a returning guest, too, by the way. So let me give a little bit about her before she introduces herself. Okay, put my glasses on. Vanessa Woods Nelthrop is a licensed professional counselor, a speaker, and wellness coach. She owns her own private practice, South Jersey Coping Clinic in Martin, New Jersey. She's a mental health advocate and works to bring awareness to challenges related to access to care and the stigmas surrounding mental health. She's also skilled at helping others discover their purpose. Vanessa is a former school board member and continues to serve her community through volunteer work through her private practice, such as hosting and operating clothing drives, back to school events, and so much more. Okay, so that's a little background. So, Vanessa Woods, Northrop, welcome again. And please, if you want to add anything more about yourself, please do that.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be back. It was fun the last time we got to do this, and so I'm looking forward to today. As you mentioned, I'm a licensed professional counselor in the states of Pennsylvania and New Jersey, although I do offer coaching, and that can be to anyone in any of the 50 states.
Okay, alrighty, okay then. So we will go there. Please, guys, please share the show. Please share the show. Please share the show. Okay, so and ready? Okay, there. So before I start, okay, like I told you guys, I'm a primary care provider. So if you were talking about worrying, well, we're gonna be differentiating between worrying and also anxiety. So as a primary care provider, I also want to make sure if you start having any kind of like you worry, you find yourself very short of breath and everything, especially if it comes on suddenly, you want to go to the emergency room. Okay. Otherwise, most people, when they start worrying and start thinking of things and it starts affecting your life and all that, the first person you're probably going to go to will be your primary care provider, which is the first person you should go to, unless if you can go to your counselor without a referral. Okay. So when you come to me already, I'm going to get your family history, your personal history, your list of medications, allergies, and certain medications you're taking or medications that you may need could be affecting that. We're probably going to do some lab work to make sure you not have anything else going on that could be causing your constant worry and constant anxiety and all. Okay. And also, if I feel that you need to be on any medication, I may start you on that medication. At the same time, I'm going to be telling you to follow up with mental health because we have to work together. They do the counseling part and all that. We can do some in the primary care, but our time in primary care is very limited. And also, mental health have specialized training also. Okay, so we will do that. And at the same time, the most important thing, we're going to be asking, making sure you don't have any suicidal or homicidal ideations by asking you if do you feel like you want to harm yourself or harm anybody else? Because people worry things about that too. And when you worry too much, that can lead to that too. Okay. So we'll clear that part out. And I also tell people I'm going to be seeing you back in 2 weeks, see you in 6 weeks, but we also tell you you have to follow up with mental health. So we will give you information for you to call them and set up an appointment to establish care with that. We also work with a psychiatrist. Also, they prescribe medication, but we prescribe medication in the primary care setting, certain medications, and we also follow up with them. But most of the time, I tell you follow up with mental health. Okay. So then we'll go on from there. So that's where Vanessa comes in. Okay. So Vanessa is going to be giving us, tell us a little bit more about holistic here because it's the modalities. I talk about that. And before we start, tell us about free floating anxiety versus worrying. So just kind of define those two.
Yeah, so the main differences between anxiety and worry is a couple of things. So for worry, it's usually around a specific area of concern, right? I have a new job that I'm entering in and I'm worrying about that. Or, I have a doctor's appointment where we're going to review my lab results. And so I'm worrying about that. It usually stems from a realistic concern about something that you have that's coming up. It usually is something that manifests itself in the mind, right, through our thought processes. And it usually can have a pretty quick solution once that thing that we were concerned about is over. Right? Anxiety, on the other hand, doesn't necessarily have to be around anything in particular. Some people experience anxiety just out of a general fear or phobia of something. Anxiety is more long term, it can be, and it can be more intense than worry. So, worry is something that's more acute versus anxiety tends to be more perpetual and consistent. Anxiety within itself manifests within the body, and usually people develop a visceral response because of their nervous system and how it's interacting with their thoughts that they have. So worry tends to just stay in your mind, whereas anxiety is felt sometimes throughout different parts of your body, right? Hands start to sweat, your mind starts to race. You might feel your heart palpitating. You might almost feel frozen. It's what we call that fight or flight response. So there are different compact variables with anxiety. So it's not just your thoughts, but it's how your thoughts impact how you feel and what you experience physically within your body.
Okay, alrighty there. So let me see. I don't see any comments yet. We'll go to comments if we get them. So we'll start with the first for the first tip. Alrighty. So number one, understanding your symptoms.
Yeah, it's really important, especially when we're talking about anxiety or worry, but more so anxiety, right? Since that is the thing that tends to be more debilitating, what your triggers are. So when you find yourself getting anxious and you're feeling those visceral responses, those physical symptoms, trying to identify where it's coming from. If you can, you might not always have an idea right away, but if you're noticing in general, I feel anxious every time that I have to meet with someone, or I feel anxious during the morning time more so than any other day, right? We always look for the the duration and the intensity of what we're feeling. So how long has this been lasting, right? And how hard do you really feel it? I always ask my clients on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. Where would you say your anxiety falls? If you're finding that it's anywhere from a 6 on up, probably want to pay some close attention to it, because what that usually signals is it's impacting other areas of your life. When people tend to say their anxiety falls about 5 or below, moderate to less severe, it's usually not having a big impact on their ability to thrive or function in other areas of their life.
Okay, so basically, when you say understanding your symptoms, it becomes debilitating that if it's stopping you from doing things that you need to do, or maybe it starts off like, okay, I don't want to go to anything recreational that I don't have to be at, to the point where it may be affecting, like maybe I don't want to go to work or something else that you necessarily have to do, and you stop doing that. That's when it starts. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, understanding the root cause, if you can. Sometimes folks on their own without professional help have a hard time doing that, and that's why they seek out professional help. But usually, when it comes to our anxiety, it's usually stemming from somewhere, whether that's physical illness that we have within the body, or past experiences with trauma, or some sort of adverse experience from our past. Usually that's where it's manifesting it from. So the only way to really treat it, not just treat the symptom, but treat the overall anxiety that you have, is by understanding where it's coming from, what the root is that's causing it.
Okay. As for me, I used to be I would say worry. I wouldn't call it anxiety when I was younger. I mean, you were much younger when you left. Back home, it's like if you lose a parent,
Mhm.
the income level goes down and everything else. So I was always just with my mother and my siblings and all. I always used to worry when she got sick. I saw how it affected other people. So I always used to worry that if she gets sick or God forbid if she passes away, who was going to take us? Were we going to go back to my father? They were having split up for a while. I didn't really know him that well and his family, and so if somebody else took us in, were they going to take all four of us, or are they going to separate us? So over time, that also went into the fact that when I became a parent, also it was like I was always like really protective of my kids, and even sometimes my son on New Year's Day, he goes, "I want to go to Pennsylvania. I want to go hang out with my friends." And of course, being the mother that I am, an African mother, I read 10,000 reasons why he shouldn't go. And I said, "Well, if you want to go, you go ahead. But I'm just telling you know." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll go. See you later." And it's like, whoa, children of nowadays. So I'm trying not to pass like my worriness, like really try to be protective of them because they're older now, onto them and all that. But at the same time, being a protective mother, you want to like just keep them safe at all times. So of course, that's some of my thing too. So we would go to did you want to add anything to that? I don't know as far as what I just
No, that I think that that's exactly it, and I really appreciate that example. I think so many people can relate to that, especially when you're a mom, you want to make sure that your family is well taken care of, and that, they're doing things that are less risky, right? In order to avoid some of those hardships that you've experienced throughout your life. So yeah, I definitely think that that's relatable.
okay, so I'm not crazy.
No, not at all.
Okay, so we will go to step symptom type number two, understanding how the cycle of worry is perpetrated.
Yeah, I think it's really important to not understand where it comes from, but also how it happens, right? So I'll give you an anxiety. Phobias is a type of anxiety that people often experience. And sometimes people can have really strong phobias to things, right? The fear of tight, closed spaces, that's called claustrophobia, right? This feeling that I'm going to get trapped. So, understanding whenever I have something that's coming up that requires me to be in a small space, feel my heart start racing. I start to think about it all of the time. I'm kind of irritable and short with other people because I know this thing is coming up that I don't want to do, right? So, when you start to understand what happens when those symptoms are triggered, then you're able to work through how to make that connection between your fear and breakthrough come into alignment, right? So that would look something like, for example, okay, I know this is coming up. I know this is something that's really hard. Who can I identify as a support for this? Right? Can somebody come with me in that elevator that I'm afraid to go in so that my anxiety is low? Can I call the security guard on duty at this building to help, me go up the elevator? Can I have my minister call me to help pray over me so that I feel more strengthened? Can I take a Bible verse with me so that I don't feel as anxious, right? Understanding what causes and triggers those things so you can find effective coping mechanisms to deal with it so that your anxiety isn't as strong. It's not to say that your anxiety will automatically go away if you use all these coping strategies. We find that that's usually not the case. What happens is it brings it down to a level where you can function instead of it feeling so debilitating and instead of you feeling so helpless about how your anxiety manifests itself.
Mhm. I didn't mean to. It's like I don't like flying. Yeah, I would fly if I had to drive everywhere. Or what scared me the last time. It's so funny. Whenever I go to the plane, I'm like, oh my, I don't like taking off and landing. That's where my biggest fear is. And then when we went somewhere a month ago, it's about a month now. It was me, my husband, and then my friend happened to be in the same flight. We are all going to the same thing and then my cousin. And of course, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, something's going to happen. When my cousin has never been in the same plane with me before, I've never been in the plane with anybody else. So that just magnified. And then that's where we're going. The pilot said, "Oh, we're experiencing so many turbulence right now, so much turbulence." So that we have told the air steward, air attendant, flight attendants to have a seat, not to move around. Of course, that was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. So I was like, and people tell me, you're a provider, just prescribe yourself something to take to calm you down. But then, of course, I want to be wide awake when I'm going somewhere. So it's like I don't know why fear flying came from. I guess crashing. So but it's one of those things where I can't help it. I try and I can't help it. So I just sit there, put my music on, and I just hope for the best. So
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, being in those tight, closed spaces, being on an airplane, right? You lose a sense of control.
yes,
And so when you don't have the ability to control things, when you have to leave your life and your well-being in the hands of someone else, it can be very scary.
yes, that's exactly. I was talking to my friend who likes to fly all the time, has a good time. She goes everywhere, and I'm like, I cannot. It's just knowing somebody all your life, just this one person is taking care of everything. You have no control of what happens after that. So that too. So, but so this is good. It's good. So we'll go on to the next one. There, increase your coping skills.
Yeah, I think usually sometimes where the fear comes from is a lack of knowledge and understanding. I think when we are aware of the resources available to us and the things that we can do to help navigate those moments of worry or anxiety, we tend to see it start to fade with time. And again, it's not to say that your anxiety will just go away, but it'll at least get to the point where it's manageable. So, increasing your coping skills, meaning your ability to identify and locate where your help is going to come from in those times of distress. What can I do? Can I do some breathing exercises? Can I phone a friend? Can I, ask for prayer? Do I need to go for a walk? Right? Do I need to recite affirmations to myself? Do I need additional help? Right? What is it that I can do in this moment so that I'm not feeling the way that I feel? And that's harder. That's easier said than done, right? Because when you're in the moment and you're feeling your heart racing and your mind is going a million miles a minute, who wants to talk about breathing? Nobody wants to do that, right? So when I tell people this, they say, you're crazy. It's difficult. If I could do that, I would have did that. But the thing is, it takes practice and training to do that. Our body's nervous system gets activated by our stress hormones, right? And so we see things like cortisol increase, which is a stress hormone. We see things like cortisol increase when those fight or flight responses get activated. The cool thing is about how our brain works, though, is that we're able to create new neural pathways in order to tell our bodies to do something different. But in order to give that signal to our brain to create those new neural pathways, we have to create new and different habits, right? I always tell people, if you want to create a new habit, you have to replace the information that you know, right? So I can't just say, okay, I want to lose weight and then keep doing the same things that I have to do. Normally, one of the biggest culprits of folks being able to manage weight outside of health related issues is the availability to them, right? This is easily accessible. I work long hours, so I'm just going to grab that. right? You have to create new habits that are also easily accessible that help you to be able to achieve your goals. Same thing with your stress and same thing with worry. When you want to work through your anxiety and when you want to work through your worry, you have to practice doing things, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if you're not fully convinced, you have to convince yourself to try to do something different in order to create new habits, in order to balance the way that your brain perceives what's happening.
So what are some ways where you do that? You said deep breathing. What are other ways, what other modalities they could use? Like in that moment in time, or you're thinking about it, how can you work yourself through that?
Yeah, changing the way that you think. So, one of the things you can do is challenge your reality. So, one of the questions that I like to ask my clients is, this year alone, how many times have you thought about the worst case scenario? Right? How many times have you thought about the worst case scenario? Usually they say, I don't really know. I say, give me a number. Just pick a number that you feel like you've thought about the worst case scenario. And they'll say something along the lines of maybe 50 times this year. Okay, great. 50 times this year, you thought about the worst possible thing happening in your life. How many times has that happened?
0.
None. Maybe 1. So you mean to tell me there's a 1% chance that this thing might happen, right? It's reshifting the way that you think about it. So there's a 99% chance that all of the things that you're stressing and worrying about might not even happen. That's great favors. That's great odds. If somebody told you you had a 99% chance of winning the lottery today if you played, would you play?
Yeah, definitely.
Great odds, right? And so it's about sometimes restructuring your brain. And sometimes, in order to do that, you have to keep telling yourself it's okay. I'm going to be okay. Because oftentimes, what you're doing by avoiding doing the things that make you fearful or worrying is you're telling yourself that it's not okay, whether that's audibly or in your mind. Your brain is getting the signal and getting the message that you're not okay. And so it's functioning as if you're not okay, right? So, in order to reprogram that, you have to start telling different things to yourself because your mind believes whatever you tell it.
Okay. And telling different things to yourself doesn't mean you're being delusional. It's just helping.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Because some people could see reality and say, okay, well, no, maybe I'm just going to focus this way. And no, it's a healthy way of changing the way you think.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Alrighty. So we will go to step number 4, increase support.
Increasing your support. I think a lot of times there's shame that's associated with having fear, with having anxiety. It's sometimes regarded as a weakness. Like, why can't I just get through this? This is so silly. This shouldn't be anything that I should be afraid of or worried about. And why do I have this problem and the other people around me don't have this problem? The issue is nobody's talking about it enough. Things start to lose its power once we start talking about it. The Bible says we overcome by the word of our testimony. And so the more we start to share in our experiences, the less shame that it has, the less grip that it has over our lives, because now we're talking about it, now we're speaking about it, and now we can get the help that we need, because other people might hear about it and say, oh my gosh, I've been going through the same thing. Here's what I did to get over it. So now you've connected with other people and a community of people, right, to help encourage you along the way. It's really, really difficult when you're trying to create new habits to do it by yourself, right? How many times have we all told ourselves we're going to eat healthy and then somebody brings Burger King home or Chick-fil-A home or your favorite food home and you're like, there it goes, right? It's so much more difficult to do things on your own than with the help of somebody else. The African proverb says, you want to go fast, go by yourself. You want to go far, go with other people. Right. And so it's really, really important to look to your network, people that you feel like you can trust, people who genuinely are there. I'm not saying just broadcast it, to all of Abby Tyler's Healthy Living page, right? You don't have to do that. But Find those people within your circle who you feel like you can connect with and who can uplift you and encourage you, and lean on them for support.
Okay, and also, we also the cultural variations, like I talked about, come from an immigrant background too. You
Mhm.
try to say those things, you try to like speak up and talk about it, and the first thing like, oh, you don't trust in God, you're supposed to trust in God, and all that. And you know your family went through different things, or other people went through different things. They trusted God. So are you saying that God is not that powerful person that you worry about this when you should be trusting God, or whoever your spiritual power is? So when that person comes to you and tell you that, I said, I cannot speak to my family members, people who I'm close to, because they feel that I'm not Christian enough, I'm not Muslim enough, I'm not, strong immigrant trait a lot. How do you address that?
Yeah, I think you have to be able to identify, and I think that that's something that comes up a lot. So thank you for raising awareness to that. I think you have to understand your audience, the people that you're talking to, the people that you're seeking out help from. All of our friends and all of our family members have their areas of strength, and not everybody is good for everything, meaning there are certain friends that you know that you can go to when you just need to get someone done. There's that friends that have all those connections, and if you know you need somebody to come and DJ, you know you need somebody to come and do this, they're that person for that. There are friends that you know that if you need someone to help you move things, you need them to help cook for you, you can call them for that. You have to understand the people that you're working with and who is good for what. You're not going to be able to utilize every single person in your support system because everybody is built differently. And so if it's a cultural thing, maybe consider, those relationships that you have outside of your culture, outside of your religious affiliation, right? Because all help doesn't have to come from the same place. And all help doesn't have to come from the same people who look like you. Representation matters, yes, but know that there are other people that are going to be more equipped to help you support you in whatever walk you're walking in. And sometimes that's not always people who are the most familiar to us.
Okay, good, good, good. Good topic here. For those of you who are just joining in, we're talking about five holistic tips to manage worrying. We're talking about worry and anxiety. Okay, with me today is Vanessa Woods Nelthrop, licensed professional counselor. So we have already gone through four different, and we're going to go through tip number five: seek professional help. When do we seek professional help? And go ahead.
When you've tried all of those things and it's still not working, you've tried steps 1 through 4, and none of that seems to be working. It still seems like it's getting in your way of your ability to thrive or live life the way that you would like to. That's when it's time to seek help. When you find that it's impacting your relationships, your job, your profession, your personal self, your health, right? That's when it's time to seek professional help. Some of the places that I often recommend finding that support, you can go through your insurance. So if you call the number on the back of your card and you tell them exactly the type of services that you're looking for, they do have managed care providers that will help you connect with the appropriate professional. So some people say, I need this type of therapist. I want a female therapist. I want an older therapist. I want somebody who can relate to me. I want somebody who's Black. I want somebody who's Hispanic. I want somebody who can speak my language. They will help you connect. There are other websites like Psychology Today where you can filter all of your requirements from. So you can say, I have this insurance. I want somebody who specializes in this, and you can cater it to your needs and what you're looking for. There are also other therapy sites like Therapy for Black Girls. It's called Therapy for Black Girls, but my Black guys can use it as well. There's Black Men Heal. There's NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, that you can also seek help from, and they will also work to help get you services, whether that's free of charge or a sliding scale or someone who takes your insurance.
Okay. And like we talked about before, most of these things is very hard. When I send my patients, I say, okay, yes, I need you to follow with mental health. And they come back they're 2 weeks after they're supposed to come back, and the 6 weeks, and sometimes they come back like 3 to 6 months later, and they still haven't been able to get into mental. So because of the pandemic and all that too, and all, especially in certain areas, you cannot get anybody. So you're basically we're taking care of all of that in primary care. Again, like I said, we don't have enough time to go into in depth into talking about your feelings and all that. When you, it's like 15 minutes and you're out. Of course, if you're a new patient, we're doing 30 minutes, but even with that, so if they're having problems finding somebody in that meantime, and also speak to the fact that sometimes I have to start people on medication if I, after I do my assessment and all, talk about the reason why some people would not want to take any medication because they don't feel like they need the medication.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's definitely a big one. I think since the pandemic, people seeking help have reached record numbers, which is a good thing. But I don't know that our system is equipped enough to be handling the outpour of people that are reaching out for help. And so some of the things that I tell folks in the meantime and in between time is group therapy is usually more readily available. And sometimes you can go there. You don't always have to share, right? Sometimes if you're not comfortable sharing in front of a group setting, you can go there just to gain the tools and the knowledge. Sometimes folks even do the groups virtually, which is more convenient because you don't have to travel anywhere. You can do it in the comfort of wherever it is that you feel like you have privacy, right? So sometimes you can get in that way as a placeholder until you're able to find your individualized support. And sometimes even a phone call, from a provider just to say, this patient really needs, additional support, sometimes can help, open some doors a little bit faster. So whenever possible, if it's a psychiatrist or whomever that you're working with, to just call, a couple of places with you during your visit so that you're able to obtain care.
And sometimes also the psychiatrist, like I said, they prescribe certain medications too, but sometimes it's so expensive. Patients will come and, yes, he or she prescribed my medication, but I don't want to go back there because it costs like $200 to $300 per visit. So then they come to primary care, and then I just continue the medication because it's like I don't necessarily need to be seeing my psychiatrist. I will continue seeing my therapist, but I can afford both.
Yeah.
So that's also another way. If you're out there, you have to, medication wise, we do attention deficit hypersensitive, what is it, ADHD. Okay, we said we in primary care we cannot initiate the medication, but we can continue it. So for patients who are coming over, yes, I do want you to follow up with your psychiatrist, but we cannot continue it. Okay, so let me see here. So we cover all five there. I think I would talk about also anxiety too. One of the things too that concerns me, I mean, nowadays is like the school shootings and all, even regular just mass shooting. That's something that affects everybody. Because I will say, like, if I go somewhere and I'm in a room somewhere or I'm in a building, I'm literally thinking in my mind, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, where will I escape to if somebody starts to shoot? So, and that's something other people talk about. It's like it's like your new normal now. So how do you work around that? Yes, you're in the supermarket, and it goes back to, has any of those things happened to you this year? But you hear it so much, and it's occurring so frequently now. So how can you tell me that it may not happen to me?
Mm-hmm. I think that that's valid, and I don't know that any professional would. I think, unfortunately, that is the climate that we're dealing in the world, and it's very much so unfortunate and sad and heartbreaking. I think that that is a very real concern that people have because it seems like a bunch of senseless killing is happening everywhere, not just in schools, but everywhere. And I think it's very disheartening. That being said, if you feel like you're having a difficulty getting out because of that fear, that's when I wouldn't try to just do that on your own. I think that's one instance where you should absolutely seek professional help so that you can work through things that are tailored and specific to you. Things like YouTube is great. Sometimes social media can be helpful, but it's not going to necessarily tailor things according to what your needs are. And so a professional is savvy enough and trained enough enough to be able to ask the right questions, to be able to suggest the right tools.
Okay, let me see here. So let me go to some questions here or statements. Okay, so I'm going to open this up here. Dennis said, "Is worrying hereditary, or will that be anxiety?"
Yeah, so anxiety, there is a correlation between, whether or not people in your family have anxiety, the likelihood that it could be passed down. So there have been correlations associated with heredity and anxiety.
And also, can that also be passed down just from a family, a parent's behavior? Because some people are like, oh my God, when you're so nervous like that, I feed off it. Other people feed off your anxiety. Even when I used to work with other people, too, like, oh my God, when this person's so nervous, then it makes everybody nervous. So is that possible that it can be passed on to your children, your trait, just to pass it on to them? They may be kind of cool and collective, but your worrying traits can also be passed on to them.
Absolutely. It's the age old debate of, is it nature or is it nurture? And I think it's a combination sometimes of both.
Okay, let me see what he says right. And then it said, what is the difference between fear and worrying, or does one cause the other? Did you get my, what is the
Ye-
difference? Yeah, go ahead.
So the main difference, that we talked about a little bit earlier on is that worrying is more acute, whereas fear or anxiety tends to be more intense and long term. It tends to be a little bit more persistent. Worrying is factored around a specific event that's coming up and happening, right? I have to make this speech. I have to start this new thing, right? Whereas anxiety can be around those things, but it tends to be more intense. And sometimes it can be nothing at all. Sometimes you just have a general fear, right? That something is going to happen, not a specific event that is linking you to feel the way that you feel. Right. And so that really is the main difference. I think worrying a lot of times sometimes can lead into anxiety, something that's more persistent. I think also, exposure to adverse events, right? Maybe you weren't necessarily someone who struggled with anxiety, but over time, you found yourself experiencing specific events that caused you to develop anxiety. That can happen as well.
Okay, good. And also this notion also where, like, for us who are healthcare providers and all that, is they say, oh well, you're not supposed to be worried, or you're supposed to be okay with that. I mean, people forget to know that we're also human beings too. So
Yep.
we see so many things over the years, and sometimes you worry with anxiety and depression, and even with the pandemic and all that too. So if you're a healthcare provider out there and somebody comes to you like, I'm going through this, but this is my job, how do you speak to somebody who's like a healthcare provider, or anybody in that field, to say, what you're feeling is real, don't feel ashamed that you're feeling this, because that keeps a lot of healthcare providers, regardless. I mean, like I said, when I say provider, also I mean, and also the nurses, doctors, other different people and all who in the health field, is keeps them from seeking help. Because, and especially the ones I see some of them on Facebook, and it's like everything is so rosy and I'm just this and I know how to do this. It keeps them from seeking the help that they need, and then they finally start getting into behavior that is unsafe. So how do you address healthcare providers?
The same way that you address anybody else. I think you said it perfectly. They're human beings and they experience human experiences. When it comes to our mental health, it doesn't discriminate. Anything can impact anybody at any given time, and that's the thing. Whether you're a healthcare provider or a doctor or, any sort of person of service, you're still impacted by life. Life happens to everyone. And sometimes it's hard for you to um, take in the same advice that you give to other people, because sometimes you tell yourself, well, my situation is different, right? And so it can be really hard sometimes to rationalize things within your own mind, even though you already know all of the things to do. I always tell folks there's a difference between knowing and knowing. A lot of times you know logically that nothing is going to happen to this plane. Like, I'm probably going to be okay, right? But emotionally, there's something else going on. And that's the reason to seek help. You're no different than anyone else just because of your title. I think bringing back the humanness, to the fields that we work in. People often expect you to function a different way, or sometimes may look at you like you're excluded from things because you have a certain tax bracket, or you look a certain type of way, or you have a certain title. But nobody is excluded from life. Life happens to everyone. And so I would really encourage everyone who's going through a real struggle to get the help. People are always going to talk, people are always going to have something to say, but don't let that keep you bound and in place. Your health, physically, mentally, spiritually, is the number one priority, because you are responsible for living your life. Other people can't live your life for you. And if you encourage yourself to continue to let other people's thoughts hinder you from making your progress, you're going to be stuck there for life. And that's not a life I think a lot of people want to live. I know it's easier said than done, but the one thing that I can assure people is, all therapists and providers are bound by HIPAA, which means even if you do reach out for help, nobody is blasting your business. It's illegal for us to do so. We cannot do that without your consent. There are, of course, a couple of ways in which information could be disclosed, like a court case or something huge, for insurance purposes. But to the general public, providers can't tell anybody your business. If you're 18 years or older, nobody can come to me without a consent form and tell me, hey, I want information on so and so. It's not possible. It's illegal.
Okay. Okay. And I think I spoke to somebody who also was managing the helpline at this company, and he was saying that it's like, he said it's pretty much you don't get too many people in there because people are so embarrassed to say, I work for this company, I'm going through stress, I need help. And then you hear later on something terrible happened to them because it's like, okay, if I go there, I'm saying that I'm weak, I'm expressing my weakness or saying, and it's kind of sad because most people who work in this field, and again, like I said, in health field and field, maybe even in police officers and things like that, or anybody who works in a high stress job, you don't want to admit that, yes, I have an area of weakness that I need to get help. And it's kind of sad because then it go through unhealthy ways of dealing with it. Sometimes it becomes, drinking too much or alcohol or other things that can be unsafe that can also affect you and also affect the family and affect your livelihood. So it's important, if you're out there and if you need the help, seek the help. Okay, it's important.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me see. I think there's one more comment here. Let me see. Show this. Okay. Jackie, this is a great topic for what is going on in our world today. Your guest is on point. Thanks for such discussion. Yes, yes. Thank you, Jackie. Yes, she
Thank
is on
you.
point. She's the pro. So okay. So Vanessa, is there anything you want to like closing statement or anything that you really want people to know, important that you want to like final thoughts that you want to give out there?
Yeah, you're worth it. You're worth the investment. You're worth the investment on your overall health. You're worth taking, the risk of being vulnerable with somebody that you don't know. It's really important for you to step out on faith and just trust that, with the right help and the right tools, you can overcome whatever it is that you're going through, right? The first step of doing anything, right, is just admitting that you need the help and support, and then the next step is getting the help and support. And if you feel like you're stuck and you can't get there, reach out to help for somebody who can make the difference.
Okay, let me see if there's any more stuff, and then we'll be done with that. Where's the list? Okay. Focus in Liberia said, great show, Abby Tyler. I'm learning a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Invite others next time. Make sure you share the show. Okay, so we'll go this. So we'll find a closing statement there. Okay, if you're trying to reach Vanessa, if if you need any kind of mental health, of course, like we said, you well, I always tell my patients, look in the bag. You can talk to your primary care provider. If you're somebody in school, you can talk to the guidance counselor. You can look in the back of your insurance card if you have insurance. Okay, it says member services. It has the mental health services there too, so you can call. And they have other. There's so many other different places where you can call for free help. If you need to reach Vanessa, she's in the South Jersey area, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey. Her contact information is up there on the screen, so you can call. They have all. She has really good stuff. I showed you guys all the pictures last time when I did a health fair there. They were even have massages there too, so that's even nice. Okay, and everybody there is great. I met the whole staff. Everybody there is like awesome. Okay, so South Jersey Coping Clinic in Martin, New Jersey. The numbers there. This is if you missed this, you can always it's going to be recorded on the show, so you can watch that again. Okay, so I thank you all for watching. I think I did all the topics. I thank you all for watching. Once again, thank you, Vanessa, now for coming through. Vanessa is my niece. She's my adopted niece. Somebody asked me, how is she your niece when I know all her sisters? Like, her family members. I'm like, it's community stuff. So, but anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys. Please share the show. What are you watching now? I say thank you for joining us. If you're going to be watching later, I say thank you also. I am trying to get to 2,000 members, followers before July. Thank you for all of you who have already joined so far. I'm over 1,000 now. I'm really happy. I told you guys healthcare is not all that exciting. So anybody who's running a healthcare forum, you know how hard it can be. And I love bringing other people on, other professionals on. I want to be bringing, it's not just going to be people who are like highly educated and all that, because every part of the health team is also very, very important. So I'll be bringing other people on too who are not this end of the spectrum. We'll also bring other people on the opposite end of the spectrum too, because everybody plays a role in taking care of the patient. Okay, so thank you all for watching. I think I did everything there. And Vanessa, everything right? You said that you have anything else to add? I think you're done.
No, just thank you for having me. I love doing these. These are always so fun.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll be at the health fair. Is it July, right?
It's in August.
Oh, I have to make sure I put that on my. I have like so much going on. So just make sure you remind me constantly too, because I don't want to like, oh my God, and everything else that's going on. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. You all have a very good night. Please share the show. And for those of you who are watching on other network, on the forums, Focus on Liberia and anywhere else, I also put up daily videos too. So please, and I put up other health information at outside of the Tuesday show. So please join so you can get more information. Okay. So thank you all for watching, and good night. God bless. Okay. So good night.